was because food Mystery Diners aired in Australia. So that's what happened with that. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the DisJointed Food Biz. I'm Dave Germain, as with me as always.
Thor Markey.
What's shaking, everybody? Welcome to the podcast about the restaurant industry, the ins and outs, the woes, the problems, the reasons why you should be in it, the reasons why you should not be in it, and everything in between. I would like to think that I just thought I wrote that, but I just thought of that because I woke up not too long ago. What's up?
That's gorgeous. You should do it more often.
Yeah, I woke up and I'm like, holy shit, I got to get to work. And I was like, fuck, you got like 15 minutes, and you're like, because why? Why? Because that's what freaking being in the restaurant industry is all about, is just not being smart about shit, I guess. That's the best way to put it.
That's about right.
Dude, I wish I would remember the name of the restaurant that we use for the backdrop. Just every so often, we get tired of the same backgrounds and everything. So what we do, we're like, oh, let's go Italian restaurant, New York City. And then it showed a bunch of dining rooms. So I'm like, all right, pick this one. So this one looks like...
It's kind of nice.
Right? This is... Like, the kitchen's probably somewhere upstairs. This is the basement of a place that they probably only open on between Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, I'm guessing. Or maybe this is it. If you notice, there's not really a bar, which means it could be one of those Italian restaurants where you have to bring in your own wine.
That's very possible.
And then you have like a bottling fee or a corking fee where they're like, listen, it's going to cost you $10 if you want to drink this wine in our restaurant. And they're like, yeah, absolutely. That's not a problem, because they figure you're buying it at a cheaper price anyways, and they're letting you drink there. So
I never understood that. Bring your wine, and then you gotta pay $10 to open it.
Yeah, well, it's because that's the main reason is because they don't have a liquor license.
No,
right?
I mean I get all that, but if I'm bringing my own wine, just give me the damn corkscrew, or I'll bring my corkscrew with me. I'm paying somebody $10 to open a bottle of wine.
Hey, you worked in New York. You know it's better not to argue with some of these guys.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, man.
Like, listen, I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying is that if you don't pay us this money,
I don't even need my corkscrew. I'll use a shoe.
Right?
You got a wall, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you gotta love it, But I mean, over there, what Jersey for? If I remember right, the liquor license 10 years ago was like $1 million.
Right.
So to get one out there, and they only issue so many. So, I mean, if you die, you can leave it to a family member, if I remember correctly.
Pretty much, that's how most of those old school bars. I'm like, listen, there's only 4 people in here at a time, and I'm sure you're buying like 1 out of every 4 drinks for those guys. How the hell are you making money? You're like, don't worry about it.
Well, in Jersey's a little different. You got 5 million people living in the state, and there's only 30 frickin' liquor licenses.
Right. Like, huh? How does that work? Like, trust me.
It's horrible, man.
We found the way to make it work, all right? Just don't even worry about it.
So when you're driving through Jersey and you see BYO on a restaurant, bring your own liquor.
Yep. But the food will be great, though, or it should be great. It depends exactly what time you get there and how drunk the chef is by the time your order comes up. So that's always a big thing. That was I still got to loan you that Pope of Greenwich Village. I just showed you. I finally found the disc.
The disc, okay,
yeah.
Okay.
So it's not all about restaurants, but that first beginning part and everything, because Mickey Rourke plays in like an old school restaurant manager, like
yeah.
And that was one of the things that we're. There's so many things to talk about on a weekly basis that sometimes we think of too many topics, and we're like, holy shit, what are we gonna do? And I keep coming back to thinking about having to make a new business model for restaurants moving into the future, because I don't think that the way that they have been running it is going to work. Like the idea of like quick serve, like actually this is something I just put together, and this is all just theory. Okay, when I used to manage for Fuddruckers, they have their business model was only 3 adults can work there, and 2 of them need to be managers, maybe 1 other person for the back line. Maybe that's the person that can be an adult. For the most part, look for teenagers who are willing to work for like $8 an hour or something.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, and or as I like to call it before, barely legal child labor, and because that's what you're basically trying to do, right? You don't want to pay an adult who has actual bills, so you're trying to find someone who doesn't have expenses, who are willing to work for you, so you can make a shitload of money, right? That model, I think, is going to start to go away, or it's going to be you can't use it for every type of restaurant. For example, I think if you're for Sonic, that seems to work out fairly well. Like I rarely see a lot of adults working at McDonald's, or like anybody over the age of 26.
Well, it depends on where you are.
Right.
You know, what side of the country you're on. You know, you head down south and you have a lot of adults working Sonics.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting. Because I've only seen the ones here in Colorado and the ones in Arizona, and there's no way in hell any place in Arizona is going to pay a living wage, especially in fast food.
Yeah.
Sorry, been there for 15 years. It's just the only place I know that does that or that changed that was In-N-Out Burger, right?
Well, I mean, as a whole, the industry has to change anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, for the small mom and pops or the chefs that only have one place, you know, building a name, whatever else, you know, you got to figure a year running through, depending on everything else, they're probably only pulling 60 to 80 grand in profit a year, or at least they should,
right.
give or take. Maybe more, maybe less.
And half of that's got to go back into the restaurant, more than likely, anyways.
Right. I mean, if they're smart, they put half of that back in the restaurant. But at the same token, one restaurant isn't going to make you $1 million. We're not in this business to make, you know, well, okay, some people are in this business to make a bunch of money. You know, but majority of the time, it's have a good life. I mean, if you're doing this business from the get-go, you like the service, you like people interaction, you care about the food, you know, and you're never going to make an obscene amount of money. You know, what is it, 2%? I mean, with the food networks and whatever else, 2% of people actually, you know, produce and do very well for themselves. A lot of chefs, after some time, you know, end up consulting for other restaurants, making their money that way. So it's not necessarily that they're always in their own restaurants, you know. But I mean, as a whole, if you're making $80,000, you put half of that back into your business. You got to live. You got to pay. You should be paying yourself throughout the year anyway.
Right.
So, you know, you just made an extra 40 grand. All right. Well, let's take let's cut that in half. Give a little bit more to your staff.
Right.
Pay them a little bit better. It produces loyalty, quality, everything, and then some, you know. Because on one restaurant, majority of the time, you're not going to make $1 million.
Yeah.
Give it back. Build it up. Build up your brand. Build up the name. Now, hey, once you get to 6 restaurants, 5 restaurants, whatever, and you're making a decent sized profit off of all of them, then yeah, you're doing well. You're making good money. You're under the radar. You're, you know, pulling 20 grand from each store, plus you're paying yourself, ideally, I would hope.
More likely.
So, I mean, who can't live, you know, if you have 5 stores at 20 grand, it's a nice living.
Yep, that's not too shabby. And this is actually something you touched on, something I think that's really important, that it's really real easy to overlook as an owner because of just the human nature of being cynical after a while. It's really difficult. I know this just from managing. It is very, very difficult not to be cynical towards your staff, right? They'll give you many reasons why you should be. But when it comes to as far as like paying a little bit more to for your staff, now that doesn't necessarily mean always throwing money at the situation, but I could tell you years ago when I was working for a restaurant that was down on Mill Avenue in Arizona, my friends and I, because we were all in our 20s at that point, we kind of took it upon ourselves, maybe with the guidance of Bill Sandwig, which hopefully I'll get him on the show at some point, but he was an old manager of mine. He was always appreciative of us, and we kind of, like our own little circle of friends, we all became trainers. So what that did is that anybody that came in for an applicant, they had to get through us if they were going to be on the staff. If they weren't going to make it, and we checked and like, this person's not working well. Like, let's say if my friend Melissa said, this girl's not working well. I'm like, really? Because she worked fine with me, and she worked fine with Clay, but she didn't work well with Amy. Oh, she has a problem taking direction from women or working with women. Okay. So once we kind of understood that, we adjusted, and she still became a really good associate. Anybody else who didn't do that, we're on their way. Point is that we built up a really good staff so well that we were breaking records on their busiest days. Like when Tostitos used to sponsor the Fiesta Bowl on Mill Avenue, that was the busiest night of pretty much all of the whole year, right? We broke over 20 grand that night, which is the most. Before that, I think was maybe 17 or 18,000. So That's a big increase. One, because of the managers, and Bill was managing at that point. There was no waste whatsoever of anything that went in that restaurant that entire week. We just made way more money than anything. We never even got a thank you from the owner.
Sure.
The managers never got a bonus. And I remember at one point there was some construction company that was doing the little holiday party in the back room there. And as I'm bussing everything up and as everybody's leaving, the owner's there. He's got an envelope like a bonus check with everybody. But he was like shaking everybody's hands as, thank you so much for everything you've done, man. You've done a lot of work. And he was making sure to make it a point to say that to every one of his employees.
Well, yeah, I mean, as an owner, it doesn't matter if it's a guest coming through a door or your dishwasher. Everybody in that building to your life is as important as, you know, you drinking water.
Yeah.
You know?
This is the funny thing is that I was getting choked up watching this. Like,
Yeah.
I started to feel a tear roll, and I'm not being funny. I was like, wow, that's what it's like to have a boss who gives a shit. I mean, granted, I was also a crazy dude who was 26 at the time, so take that with a grain of salt. But the whole point is that I remembered that I don't know what was in those envelopes. It could have been $1,000. It could have been $50. I have no idea. But the thing that meant the most to me was the fact that he was actually showing that he was appreciative of the staff. And I'm like, wow, that'll go a long way. So it's not just throwing money at it, but actually doing something nice. How many restaurants? This is the first time in a long time that I've worked at a restaurant that had a holiday party.
Really?
Yeah.
I've always done one.
Right. For the past, Macaroni Grill didn't. I mean, the associates might want to build one for themselves, you know, for the most part, but nothing that was ever sponsored by the actual restaurant.
I think almost every place I've worked, and I've had some corporate places where they have, you know, X&A on the, you know, after hours, whatever else. But as a manager or as an owner, you have to do something to make your staff appreciative. You know, this last Christmas party and the one previous to, I cooked everything.
Right.
You know, and whether the staff realizes or not, I mean, that's something that I do for them, not for anything else, not for nobody else.
I was able to taste it in the food. I got it. I was appreciative of it.
I mean, it wasn't, you know, a fine serve, but I mean, it was. I thought I did decent.
Yeah, it wasn't. It's not like you just like threw it in the microwave. I'm like, here you go, share, assholes.
Bought a Stouffer's lasagna. Here you go.
Yeah, exactly. Might be cold. You might have to nuke it when whoever gets to the middle.
So the other week there was on one of the fan pages, somebody's like, "How should I pay my general managers?" All right. So this was kind of this, you know, us talking about this. This was kind of my point. You know, give them a salary. You know, some guy jumped on there. Oh, the salary, bonus, car, phone. I'm like, look, man, I've never worked at a place that would give you, know, all right, maybe they'll give you $20 for your cell phone or whatever.
Right.
But a car, who the hell are you working for?
There's only one place I know that does that, and that's Cheesecake Factory, and that's only for the GM.
Oh, see, but that makes sense.
Right, because they always know where it's going to be, right in the parking lot.
But, I mean, you know, for the most part, it doesn't matter if you're a big boy or small boy, you know, and I suggested, look, a good salary, capable bonus, do something other than the norm to make them feel appreciated. For one, hear their ideas, because let's face it, as an owner, you may not know everything about the area or what's going on or whatever else. They might have ideas. Ideas spring from everywhere. I mean, the government has think rooms. All right, but I was like, look, get them a dinner for two somewhere nice.
Right.
Have it be on you, whatever. You know, I mean, wouldn't we all love a envelope of $1,000? Hey, here's a bonus. Nice job. Don't worry, it's not part of your original thing. Do something outside the norm. You know, I mean, if it's vacation time, they're not going anywhere. They're taking a week off. Honestly, if I got somebody running my business, making me money, making us money, get them a trip somewhere. You know what I would.
I was meaning to add to it, but when I saw that post, I was at work, and I'm like, I should probably not be on my phone as much because I'm kind of horrible with that.
True.
Yeah, I know. I've gotten to the point where I go to the back now. I know. There's two things that I think that'll attract a good associate, especially a salaried manager. And one of those things, obviously, is money, and the second one is time. All right. So,
well, if you're in this business, there's no time.
See, I think that's where something that can be improved upon. That's
definitely.
So, this is what I felt when I first started managing, right? And I was also just got married at that point, and I'm not blaming the restaurant industry for the end of my first marriage. As a matter of fact, the restaurant industry didn't end it soon enough, but so that's a gripe towards them. But the GM gets to be a good dad. The GM gets to be a good husband. The GM gets to spend time with his family in the evening when they come home, when everybody's home. Everybody else can go fuck themselves, basically. And I know it's being a little harsh, but like if you're the night manager, for the most part, more like at least 5 days a week, you're not home when your kids get home from school. All right, they'll be home when you get home, but for the most part, you're working a swing shift, right? Or because the GM is going to take the morning shifts for the most part. He might work a mid on a Friday or Saturday. Good for him, right? But there's a reason why so many managers in restaurants are either alcoholics, drug addicts, or gambling addicts. That's not a coincidence. It's because you're spending 55 plus hours a week. I think at 50 to 55, you could still manage to have a decent life. That's not an issue, right? A lot of places that aren't in the restaurant industry can work for 10 hours a day. But if you're working more than that, you're putting everything else at risk, I think.
Well, but and if you look at the finer dining sets, the way and that whole side's changing, majority of the time due to the chef, whatever else. But throughout the years, I mean, I remember doing fine dining and 15, 16, 17, 18, 20 hours a day. Go home, crash, you're back in, one day off a week, but for the corporate world, for the managers and stuff like that. And I do agree with you on that. But at the same token, like any other business, you have to pay your dues. You have to learn, you have to grow. And let's face it, if you're, not where you want to be, if you're not a GM by, say, the age of, 35, 40?
At least that, yeah.
Or haven't been, or your life constraints, whatever else, you need to look in the mirror too.
It's what you really want to do.
Well,
or if you get happy where you're at, that could be that.
Or if you stop learning, or if you're set in your ways, or you don't grow, or whatever the case may be. I mean, we're always, in our daily lives looking to improve ourselves.
True.
So why aren't we doing that in the extension of our work lives? And there are some places, that especially corporate places, if I sign on to a place and I do a year, say like IHOP, the night shift manager,
right, and
I can't move, grow, or extend, why am I doing it?
Right. Just start stealing from the place. No. But no, this one of the things that, by the way, there's 3 people watching around. Thank you so much. Feel free to say hi in the chat room, man. Feel free to hit the subscribe, man. We can definitely use all that. As a matter of fact, I have an alert thing for the subscribe, so do me a favor. Please do it anyways. You can unsubscribe later. I just want to see the alert thing go through. The other thing was, aside from like money, I think the bonus idea, I hate that. Because I've worked at places or companies that, hey, we need to save money this quarter. You know what? Let's, like, at one point for one of the restaurants that I worked for, they wanted to see it was either 6.5 or a 9% increase in the third month of a quarter in order to hit bonus. All right. The only way that I could have done that is if I went to every burger restaurant in a 5-mile radius and set them on fire. That's the only way I'm going to see that much of an increase and stuff. So basically, what that is that says fuck you, I'm not paying you. That's basically what it was. That to me, that was them lying to me, saying, "Hey, this is the carrot, up, and they just kept moving it back." So I think a profit, even a small profit share, like if you're paying him a decent salary, I don't think the bonus is the way to increase it. Like I think that even if they said, listen, you're going to get 2% of the gross, which is a lot, or maybe 1.5 or something like that. And you share that just for any of the managers. So let's say even if you split it up, if you have 5% that you're going to put in there, and you split that up between 2% of the GM, and this is the other thing, adding an extra manager on there. because it goes to my next point, not just necessarily putting time, but well, if you, let's say the average thing for a restaurant for most of it, or the way it has been for the past 20 years, you have one GM, two and a back of house manager and a front of house manager, right? So a total of 3 people.
Kitchen, wait staff, and then you always, if you have a bar, normally they separate out, bar host.
But I think they try to do it with Macaroni Grill, but I'm like, we're not. The front of house manager should be the one doing the inventory on the bar. They
Well,
don't have
and
to have
what we've been seeing lately, and even for the corporate places, I was talking to a guy from Cheesecake Factory, and he's a GM. It's him and
on the show.
it's him and one other manager right now. Now, granted, a lot of these places aren't interviewing people. You do an online assessment. You don't really talk to nobody, and they blow through. But a lot of these places are running with 2 managers.
Ugh.
When I worked for VI for a short time, Village Inn, we had 2 managers and 2 keys. In a restaurant that seats anything over, say, 50?
Right.
You need more than 2 managers.
Right.
I don't care if you're a bar that seats 100. You need more than 2. No 2 managers. You're open 7 days a week, 2 different shifts. Nobody should be under those kind of conditions.
Right. And so one of the things that I think they're like, well, we can't get decent people, but yeah, there's no good managers. Like, oh, there's plenty of good managers, just like there's plenty of good servers, plenty of good everything. The point is that they don't want to. They don't like. I try to tell some of my
friends.
friends.
Want pay. They
how dare they want to have a good
save money instead of paying somebody $55,000 a year.
Right.
I can save that. So, but going back to the bonus thing. I honestly think for corporations, the bonus guidelines that they have is bullshit. Let's face it.
It's a profit say. It's basically to entice somebody in there, and then basically they could save money at every quarter. Be like, look, we didn't have to pay out this much.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a business. You have to make money. But
right.
as a manager, if like one place I was at, comps and voids, stuff like that, for the month had to be 1% of sales.
Right.
Look, if somebody's not happy, you're tying my hands behind my back to make them happy, to get them to come back, to keep them as a guest. I think it's bullshit.
Right.
If something's not right, let me fix it. Don't tell me I can't do it.
You want that bonus, don't you? Well, in that case, tell these people that they can't have it.
But at the same token, as a manager, you're trying to build the business, and you have to comp this. You have to, hey, go over and give them an appetizer. Welcome, guys. First time here. Here you go. Or even a regular. Hey, man, how you been? You've been coming in every day for 3 months. Let me buy you a beer.
Yeah.
Stupid shit like that will go a long way. The guidelines for a lot of these places doing bonuses is 6% increase. Look, I saw a place that told me I had a 4% increase in sales, dropped my food cost from, what was it? It was 26 to 22.
That's huge, yeah.
All right. There was a lot of stipulations. I told them fuck themselves.
Right.
All right. Now, I did, continue work there, but I'm like, your expectations, and that's what it is. The expectations of the people above want to pull more money out of it, and there's no physical way to get down to some of these percentages. I don't care if you're the greatest salesman in the world, you got everything going on for you. I mean, yes, there are the lightning strikes that year, 80% increase for the 1 year. But majority of places trying to get a 2% increase is fucking hard, let alone when you're in the restaurant for 65, 70 hours in the week.
Right.
But I mean, for the small guys, and as I look at it as a manager, I've been an owner of business, whatever else, if my manager, if my employee is going above and beyond, because there are circumstances,
right?
Floods in Texas. Right. Nobody got a bonus throughout that time. Yeah. But I'm just, if somebody's going above and beyond, they're building the business still. My sales are increasing. Maybe my food costs went up a little bit. hey, that's going to happen with sales increase,
Yep.
you know they're doing a good job. Give them something.
Just
Period.
acknowledge it's whether it's I mean, obviously, an acknowledgement will do for the short term, but eventually, there's a reason why I was thinking a profit share would work better than a bonus, because keeping it smaller instead of a big bonus,
Right.
a smaller profit share, so that way it's kind of like, listen, I'm kind of getting used to this extra $1,000 per month, and I'm seeing they'll be more invested into.
Well, something that used to happen was, and I'm sure it still does, but the prices have changed, whatever else. But you get these managers that have been working for these corporate places, and then they managing partner, okay? But it used to be, and I'm sure it depends on the company and how much, whatever else. So you work for these guys, and then you're going to turn around and give them $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 of your own money. All right, you're going to pay into this to get this profit share and become a managing partner. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, wow, that sounds like so unbelievably
So
douchey.
you get a check every quarter or whatever it is, 2, 5, whatever. 100, not thousands. It's not like it's a huge thing, but you're giving them your money that you've been building and helping them build this business for. All right, and then they kick you down because, look, let's face it, the CEO of some of these places making 1.2, 2.5, whatever the case may be,
Right.
and you get a $200 check after you put in 20 grand.
Oh, by the way, just how I feel about CEOs making that much money, I honestly don't mind them making that much money. If they're getting paid $5 million a year, that's great. But I want to get $5 million out of leadership out of that fucker. Because if you're just hanging around, not doing shit, not really helping building the business, not leading, and just basically sending down all these edicts of like, hey, we need to see this massive increase. By the way, everybody's working 60 hours this week. By the way, we're open on Christmas. By the way, hey, look at me, I'm the boss.
Well,
fuck that guy, because he's not really that to me. That's not being a leader. But
take Darden. All right,
yep.
They have,
which I have to, because they're like the Walmart of restaurants.
They have, I don't know how many brands they have.
Yeah, all of them.
They have a lot. But if you're the CEO of Darden,
right.
All right, you have, say, 100 brands. All right, all those brands have, well, and I'm sure it varies, but your bigger brands probably 20,000 stores down to 500 stores. That's a lot of properties to oversee. You're going to miss steps. I don't give a damn who you are.
Oh yeah.
What head, whatever else. Should a company be that big? Hell no.
I don't think so.
Does that guy deserve $5 million? Look, if he's doing his job right, he lives in the office, he's never home.
Right.
All right, but let's face it, that's not how the corporate world works.
He's basically
and
one of his desk drawers is filled with nothing but pure Colombian, and he's just doing bumps all the time.
Here we go. And this is something that I was thinking about the other day, which bringing that up comes in. I've looked at sensors and whatever else the government puts out, and I'm willing to bet the restaurant industry is probably one of the largest industries in the States.
Oh yeah, it covers a basic necessity, which is eating.
Right.
People are never gonna eating is never gonna go out of style.
So, I mean, a lot of consensusships are like, oh, it's car industries or it's steel or it's hospitals. Look, for every hospital out there, and they probably employ, I don't know what, 10,000, 500 people, just depends size, whatever else. But there's probably 20 restaurants surrounded by them, plus the food service inside of them. You got to think the food industry as a whole has got to be the biggest industry out there. So propaganda, whatever else, who knows? Nobody's saying. But I mean, let's face it. In the States, they say, "Oh, people, are the voice, are everything," and well, we're finding out that's not true.
No, the money is.
But I mean, as a whole, if the industry got together, And I don't just mean the corporate places. I mean, corporate places, you know, in my eyes are kind of douche anyway. I'm more of a mom and pop guy. But if everybody got together, man, we are probably still, and, you know, I say in the States, but food service has got to be worldwide leading industry. And we're still the lowest paid out there. Yep. No benefits, no nothing.
It's because I think they're, man, how do I put this? Weak. No, because when you
Big-eared.
Right, no,
you got a steak and a salad?
Yeah, I know. Right?
Everybody's weak.
That's what the problem is people are fucking,
we have a guest that comes in work and says everybody's weak.
Right, and this is the thing. Well, you know what? The guy's like in his 70s and he still wants to fight everybody. So I don't know. But like when you think about it, the type of person that comes in there, and this is myself included, you got to go through like this boot camp of shit in order to really kind of thrive in a restaurant. Like whether you're back of house or front of house and stuff, there's always a trial by fire. You're always getting nobody. That's why I think millennials they're having to change the business models around millennials because they can't. A lot of them, not all of them, really can't handle the brutal pressure of it. Right. So there's always this thing where you're kind of hoping that the boss, even though he's being an asshole to you, that he's trying to help you in his own way. And I think we kind of that mindset is still stuck in our head that we're like, listen, the VP he's got to be looking out for us, right? I mean, he knows that without us, he's completely screwed, right? Not necessarily. The farther anybody gets away from the unit,
he'll quit, get another job at Encon.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, there's things like I think like when you're talking about like the restaurant industry getting together and trying to actually affect some change. Like a good one we mentioned on the last episode was housing. House flipping, that whole entire market, that thing is that's one of the reasons why it's harder for smaller restaurants to get a hold of, why everybody's asking for $15 an hour right now. It's not because they're hating on you. That was a demon that just went through and messed with our stuff. Nice. But if the apartment complexes, which are usually trying to be just a slightly little bit cheaper or more expensive than a mortgage, right? And they're like, oh, mortgages are basically at $1,500 a month now or $1,800 a month. We should charge $1,100 for a studio. Well, now that you were paying $650 or $850 or whatever the federal minimum wage was, and
I remember like $400 for a 4-bedroom apartment.
Oh, I remember. You know what? I was paying $550 for a 1-bedroom in Tempe before I moved to Denver, and so then like okay, even with that, I could have been working at Walmart or at just at a Circle K or something like that and still wouldn't have been able to live.
Yeah.
You can't do that anymore. So is that the restaurant? Is that the owner's fault? That, oh, you're not paying enough. Really? Because I thought I was. It's just now suddenly housing costs about 3 times as much as it used to. So what the hell are you guys going to do? Talk to your city council, man. Talk to your thing like, hey, can we do something about this? Because I'm glad that all these folks who are investing in real estate are making money. Good for them, but there is an effect to it. There is a cause and effect to how all this shit's working. So, but yeah, I think that's basically this whole industry that.
Well, I mean, it needs to change.
Yeah.
It really does. You know, we're like I said, probably one of the biggest industries in the world, and across the world, we're probably the lowest paid, because majority of us that work in it truly have a passion for the food or the service, or you know, and we all know, majority of us all know we're not going to make, you know, billions of dollars and
but they just want to have a good life.
But have a good life, you know, bring kindness to people, whatever else, you know. So I mean, it's crazy, man. It really is. I don't know the answer. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know the change. You know, I think a lot of it is just money grubbing from every industry, every person, every, you know, the higher ups, the lower, everybody's all about the money. You know, it's got to change. That's all there is to it.
That's what I always think that because this is one thing that's kind of that I think is really positive about millennials when they talk about their spending habits, and I think this will change. Will coincide when they get older, when they start having like kids in their 30s and 40s. They want to have an experience rather than just go to Applebee's or something they've had before. If they're going to only go out once a week or something, or once a month, they're going to go to some trendy little shishi place, and you know, oh, this is a great place that serves espresso and crepes and slaps you in the face when you ask for anything. Like, oh, okay, cool, $40, I'll do that. hopefully when they get to the point where, because this happens to every generation, guys, at some point you're going to have to start taking on more responsibility. You're going to look at a problem wherever you work at, and you're like, you know what, instead of bitching about this, I'm going to try to be part of the solution instead of just bitching about it. And they're going to want to move into management, right? But I think they might be the same thing where they're like, I would rather be more a job that's fulfilling necessarily that pays a whole lot. Which,
well, that's the difference between the career and the job. If you
Right.
have that job mindset, you'll never go the extra mile.
Mhm.
You'll never do anything, aspire to anything, whatever else. And I know that's kind of harsh,
Right.
but you'll always be a job person.
Right.
You know, like if, hey, you get an old guy that accidentally misses the toilet, and it happens,
Right.
and you got a pile of shit sitting on the floor. Hey, man, can you pick that up for me? No.
Yeah.
You know, you never, oh, I get it, but, I mean, it's got to be done.
Yeah.
You know, what the fuck? Little pride in where you work, little whatever in yourself, and yeah, nobody likes to do it.
Yeah.
But, I mean...
Well, if you find that one person, fucking pay them. And he's like, man, I hope somebody shits on the floor today.
But
You're like, hey.
if you have a career mentality, I want to do this for the rest of my life. I want to be the best that I can be at it. Doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
You know, and that goes in relationships and everything else. And, you know, it's have passion, pride, whatever else. But if you have that job mentality, that's going to be it. It's always going to be the job.
Well, well, okay, so, oh no, that's totally true. I think but like moving forward, because we're talking about business models, which I don't think we ever really got to, but we're talking about, like, in all fairness, yeah, this should be called the disjointed sidetrack about whatever we were talking about, possibly with Dave Germain and Thor Markey.
There you go.
Maybe that has to come from the down. Like this we're talking about changes in the industry and stuff, and it really comes down to leadership, you know. And obviously, if I was the head of a company, I would be like the first one. I'm like, all right, let me try this and see if I can instill change. But we're just trying to get this ideas out to folks, or whoever may be listening, that maybe if you are the CEO, maybe if you are the VP or something like that, and you go, all right, you're really good at acquiring ones and zeros, better than like most of the people on the planet, right? I'm hoping that they look for a life that's about fulfillment, right? And say, well, how can I find a way, like, okay, rather than having the best company, how about have a company that employs the happiest people? That makes me feel good. That makes me feel like I was more than just a machine that had a pulse.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And when you do that, it's the strangest thing, and you know, we know this from being in the units and stuff, is that whatever attitude that the boss has, that's the type of employees that they attract. Okay, so if you're a bitter person, if you're a bitter, like when I was...
my employees.
Yeah, exactly. But you're cynical and all this other shit, you know, the only type of people that you're going to attract are cynical assholes, right? Like, I've mentioned this on many podcasts before, and I'll say this to anybody, especially if you're a new manager or you just got into this. If you talk to your associates like they're idiots and morons, the only people that will be willing to work for you are idiots and morons.
Yeah.
Okay? If you treat your employees with respect, and, you know, not necessarily kiss their ass, I'm not talking about that, but I mean, you acknowledge when they do something right, so that way they listen to you when they do something wrong, and you have to coach them on it.
Saying good morning.
Saying good morning, things like that, then that's the type of associates that you're going to attract. That, I think, I wonder if that works and stuff the higher up you go, man.
Well, and I don't care if you're a CEO, a manager, supervisor, whatever in the chain, you cannot control your employees.
Right.
All right?
No, yeah, it's never.
You know, so
not dogs.
As much as we beat up the CEOs, I mean, they have a job to do. They have 50,000 people under them.
Oh yeah, totally.
You know, now in the main office, can they control what's around them? Yes. Will those department heads control what's around them? They should.
Right.
But as you know, shit falls downhill, ladder, whatever else.
Right.
Steps are always missed. People aren't always doing what they're supposed to. CEO has their guidelines. Department heads have theirs, so they have numbers, whatever else to run. But it's the human element, the business world, whether food service, whatever else, is missing. You know, and I say that now, especially with all the sexual harassments or rapes, whatever you want
Oh,
to
yeah.
call them, coming out now.
We don't like to call it shenanigans, my friend. As,
You know,
we've
I
called it
mean,
in
a
the
lot of
past.
these guys shouldn't have been where they were. Don't get me wrong. We've been working the restaurant industry for years, and you always get those people that fall in love, whatever else they're
Yeah,
dating.
who hasn't banged a coworker? If you work in a restaurant long enough, eventually it's going to happen. So,
But I've never seen anybody, take somebody in the walk-in and just rape them. I mean, verbally in the restaurant industry, we beat each other up a lot. It's it's a hostile environment. We talk about, let's face it, restaurants are worse than locker rooms if you're in the business.
yeah.
And you don't like how people talk.
They actually got upset to the person.
Get out of it.
Oh my gosh! Even that same restaurant back in Arizona. Anytime, because Arizona, there's a lot of Mormons that out there that work. I don't know if you know this. There's a lot of Mormons in Arizona, like a lot of them. And anytime one would come into the restaurant, it was always kind of like, all right, are they going to be cool or not? Because
Okay.
we're like, man, this guy's a fucking asshole. This table at table 42. I'm like, excuse me, can you please not swear? Can you please not swear? And then like, jeez. So how come I have to change the way that I speak around you when we've already been talking like this?
Well,
and then they go to HR and all this other stuff, and it always creates a big shitstorm, right? Now, granted, should you be swearing? Probably not. But the whole thing is we had a good thing going until this fucker ruined it. So, but
Well,
when it comes,
new study, if you swear a lot, you're one of the smartest people in the room.
yeah, which is why I fucking agree with that. Anyways,
Yeah.
but it's a weird thing. Like my old boss would say, that it's not a gentleman's business. You shouldn't. If you're a nice person, you shouldn't be in the food service. But going back, even talking about the long hours, if you spend more time at your job than you do in your own life doing the shit that you want to do, eventually,
Your job is your life.
your job is your life. And guess what? People, human beings, like to breathe. They like to feel good. All right, so. Well, shit, what's around me? Oh, my gosh. I mean, now, granted, it's not an excuse, but let's look at the issue, and be like, hey, this guy, how many, let's take a look at how many sexual harassment cases that we've had in our industry.
Man,
maybe
it's crazy.
It's super crazy. Maybe there's a problem with maybe 55 hours is too much. Maybe 65 is too much.
Considering the average people work, 40, 45?
45, right. So why don't we, like when the one point or the idea that was I've totally lost a long time ago, about half an hour ago, adding another salary manager to the point where you could put it down to 410s a day for your salary managers, right? Maybe your GM is still going to have to work a bit more, but make a little bit more. But he's not doing 60 hours a week, right? Unless he wants to be there, right?
Well, and a lot of that is the leadership mentality. I can tell you, when I was GM, I worked more than my other managers. You set that example. Now, if a holiday comes up, am I going to take the privilege of taking that day off? As long as I know they're there and the restaurant's good and everything's rolling, yeah. Now, something happens, I can't. But the leadership there, you've paid your dues, you put in your time. If you work hard with your staff, now that doesn't mean to say you take every holiday off or special day, whatever else.
I would say pick one: Thanksgiving or Christmas or New Year's.
Yeah, pick one. Give the other ones, which one do you really need to be home for? If you got kids, look, Christmas is it. If you got single managers, give them New Year's off.
Right.
You're not going anywhere. Half the time, if you are off, you're in bed by 9 anyway.
Right.
But man.
Or if they're single, give them New Year's Day off. And you're like, all right, yeah, you can work. I need you to work New Year's Eve, but you can have New Year's Day off.
There are perks.
Yeah.
To putting in your time, to being in this industry, but to just rape somebody for no excuse or reason,
Oh, you're talking about that one fucker on Instagram, right? The one that you showed me, that post of that one.
Oh,
chef?
the Mario, the Italian dude. No, I was just. This
is the backdrop for his restaurant, by the way. No, I'm just kidding.
That's lovely.
No, that'd be fun.
Yeah, here's a cinnamon roll, whatever.
Dude,
for
that was the craziest apology that I've ever seen.
How do you give up a recipe for apologizing of just destroying some little girl? And I mean, let's face it.
It's a horrible thing to laugh at. No, this is what I'm laughing about. Like, let's say if it's not I would like to apologize. First of all, now there's a thing about like how sincere was the apology. right? Like for Louie CK is that he thought that he had consent, so he said like, if I cause this, all right, that's one thing, all right, and I know people could look at that many different ways, but if it's like a blatant friggin' like sexual assault, if not rape, and then to say like if I had upset somebody, I'm like, dude, you whipped your dick out and you forced somebody to touch your penis against their will, and they kept saying no, stop it, and we're screaming. If for some reason what my actions that I thought I didn't realize it was going to be so bad, I thought it was part of the whole thing, so I'm sorry that she was underage, all right, I'm sorry that she upset, I'm sorry that she's psychologically scarred. By the way, I've got a great recipe for a pizza, you know, like, what the fuck, man?
What the
like,
fuck was he
thinking? What kind of psychotic
thinking?
dickhead are you? Like, oh my God. And to put it on Instagram, that was...
Oh, he put it on Instagram. He put it on every application that was out there. And it was like, dude, how does this make... Here, you got to make a warm cinnamon roll. You'll feel better about this situation.
You'll feel better about having to look at my sweaty nuts.
Dude.
Here you go.
I mean, for one, you're a fucking moron. I don't know how you got to where you were...
Oh, I think I do because we reward
a whole lot of
predators.
coke.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, come on, man. You know, and it's not just this industry that's getting hit right now. Everybody's coming out and drilling it, and everybody's suing and whatever else. Look, first of all, you shouldn't have put yourself in that situation. Knife, leg, twist. Have a nice day. You know, no offense to women. If it was women or guys, but we're all playing the victim. You can stop a situation for most unless, hey, you're being held down.
Right.
All right, by 6 other individuals, whatever. I don't care if you're a guy, girl, whatever. But to not say something for a couple years and then all of a sudden come out, what is that about? Stop suing people. Stop looking for money. You know, on that aspect, should you drill these guys? Yes.
Well, I think this is why human beings can't have anything nice. By the way,
Poop in your sandbox.
Yeah, exactly. I think that I think it's on one hand, I think, like I said, I think it's great that a lot of these guys are kind of getting out of like, yeah, this guy was a total freaking pervert and everything. I know that he has this image of being a really, really nice guy and a successful businessman. Well, yeah, he also likes to, touch boys,
whatever it is.
That
right.
stuff, I think, that's the
needs
part
to come to light.
That's the part that I think it's great. Now, that being said, with so many human beings out there on this planet, and everybody being able to talk to them, there are going to be some people out there. I'm like, you know what? This is my 15 minutes. And ready to go out there, right? And let me just try to add on to this, and let me just see if I can be part of it.
Or he's worth a couple million. Let me get some of that.
Right, and so...
Whether it happened or not, because we all know there are instances where you cry wolf, but nothing...
And it's really, really weird, because you never want to, like victim blaming and stuff, but at the same time, it's kind of weird, man. I feel like, and I'm not doing a good point, doing a good job of articulating these thoughts here.
We're making this worse, I think.
I think so too. But there's something out there. There's a discussion that needs to be had, and I'm just not exactly sure how to put it. Where okay, I was taking this gal because I do Lyft driving as well as many of the other things that I do aside from being a comic and doing all this other shit. Right. There was this gal that I picked up, and it's funny, like. The apartment that she was in, it was one of those sub-level basements and stuff. She crawls out from the patio from there, right? It's just like 1 a.m, and she's like, "Oh man, thanks for being here." I'm like, "Oh gosh, man, that was a weird situation." I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, man, my friend that I've had for like the past 5 years, man, he tried to fuck me." I'm like, "Whoa." So he does not know that was part of he's like, he knows that I'm married and stuff, man, and I don't understand. This is weird, and maybe just because he was drunk. And I'm like, wow, that's not cool, man. You know? And she's like, yeah, it's just. And as the ride went on, the more and more freaked out she was getting. Like, when I picked her up, he's like, I can't believe he tried to have sex with me. By the time I dropped her off, which was 10 minutes, like, I can't believe he tried to rape me. Now, she is intoxicated, and I'm feeling kind of weird about this because I don't know, like, I'm like, wow, it's like, how would you feel if somebody tried to rape me? I'm like, that's, especially if it was a friend, I would feel hurt, absolutely. And I'm trying not to, like, I don't know what to say, right? Other than like, do you need me to take you to the cops? Do you need me to just take you home? What was it? You know, she's like, no, just take me home. I'm like, okay. And apparently she kneed him in the groin and stuff and like whatever. But this is the weird part about it. It's like, yeah, we've been friends for like 5 years and stuff, and I just wanted to, we wanted to watch a movie, so he just invited me over. I'm like, when was this? Like, it was like around midnight. So a dude invited you over who you know who's been drinking to watch a movie at midnight.
Yeah, he thought he was getting a booty call.
He thought so, and then she thought that she was just going to go watch a movie. Now, this is the fucked up thing about it, right? If this was a young girl who was like younger than 25 and still kind of innocent and still doesn't realize that, hey, man, guys could be creeps and shit, I would totally freaking get that. This gal was my age. She was 42 years old because I know she told me that she was in her 40s.
Everybody can be creepy.
But this is the weird thing is that usually any gal that's like in her is in her 40s, like, how do you freaking not see that coming?
Well, and
you know, and now that doesn't excuse anything what the guy was doing, but
no.
Now, granted, did he just try to get laid or did he try to rape her? I don't know. I wasn't there, but I know that it went from he was trying to get some to he attacked me really, really quick.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, well, I don't know what to think about that situation. So,
well, and she got out of there.
And she did.
Good for her.
Good for her, thank God, and that's great.
You know, he was drunk, whatever else, so maybe, you know, it was the alcohol. But, I mean, let's face it, don't put yourself in that situation.
Right. So that's where there's a lot of, I think that's where the conversation eventually it's going to happen. Before that happens, somebody's going to die because of all this, by the way. Somebody's going to get accused, whether rightly or wrongly, and then somebody's going to get murdered, and there's going to be a bloodbath, and then like, all right, maybe we need to rethink about how we handle this.
You know, if it's a friend of 5 years and, hey, man, let's hang out, whatever else, unless I'm gaming, you know, with somebody, I'm not hanging out with you at midnight to watch a frickin' movie. Now, if I worked midnight shifts, I guess that's how my life went. Right. And I'm up and they're up and we know. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, just don't put yourself in that situation. I don't care if you're a guy, girl, whatever. You know, get trapped in a walk-in. Look, there's hotel pans. There's all kinds of stuff you can use. Hit somebody and get away.
Yeah, use the corners.
You know, like I said, unless you have 6 holding you down.
And, well, this is I think one of the things that I was really, really grateful for, even though I didn't really like working for the company, was working for Peter Piper Pizza when I first started managing, because Ken Robbins, who was my GM, one of the things that he told me is like, never, ever put yourself in a situation where there could be any because we work with a lot of teenagers here. Like at one point, he told me the story of where he was in a walk-in. They were getting some stuff down. It was with, like, this girl was on a ladder. She was handing a box down or something, and when she turned, something happened where, like, a boob or something like that grazed his face, right?
Okay.
And there was, like, this moment of awkwardness, and he just made a little joke. He's like, well, was it good for you or something, right? Oh. Yeah. So he didn't think, and he's a young guy as well. He's probably in his early 20s at this point. He would never do this at this age. And, they all kind of laughed, they joked about it, whatever, and then she went home and she told her parents about it, who did not think it was funny, who called the cops. And so this is like a first weekend with his job, and his GM is like, all right, new manager who I barely even know, why am I in this situation where I have to fucking explain that my manager's an idiot and is a moron who said something very inappropriate and stuff? I'm like, and he felt like shit. And the guy, you know, like he wasn't that dude. He wasn't the type of guy that freaking hit on his staff at all. But the whole point is that he's like, I put myself in a position where there is a moment of doubt that I was going to act inappropriately, right? And that joke was, but like I said, he wasn't that type of dude. So he's like, you got to make sure that, like, if you have to go on the walk-in and for some reason you can be in there for an extended period of time with somebody, make sure the door's propped open.
Right, door's always open.
Door is always open and stuff. Or if you have to talk with an associate, especially with a female associate, about like a disciplinary issue, you always have a witness. Your hands are always you're not looking
Do
aggressively.
it in the open.
And she has to be, you're in the back of the office. She's the closest to the door. There's always these things that you have to do in order to get this done. And
see, I never liked doing that stuff in the office anyway.
right. Well, because if it was something that was really bad, I didn't want to.
Clear table somewhere.
Right.
I need somebody watching me.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds bad. But and in this industry, you're going to get brushed.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, with kids, whatever else. I mean, I've worked lines that were so close where the guy's dick's on my leg all fucking night. And
which is weird because there was plenty of space.
or the female chef is brushing me every time we're switching lanes. I've had it happen. It's close quarters. It's gonna happen.
Right.
But unfortunately with teenagers, wow, man. That sucks. Yeah, but
it didn't end his career, but the whole thing was that was a very scary lesson to learn.
Oh yeah, man.
And I was glad that he talked to me about it from the beginning and stuff, just because it's so. We got to be extra vigilant, especially as a guy, because that the monkey brain that we've got is constantly trying to put any appendage of ours into any appendage of somebody else, and or orifice, I guess. So
or human.
Yeah, and it's one of those those crazy things, man. But apparently the story for that one chef was that he was going after the underage girls and stuff, like the hostesses and shit. Or
yeah, I stopped looking into it.
Okay.
I ended up getting busy, but I mean, regardless, man, and man, it's I don't care if you're a chef, you're a football player, you're an actor, you're whatever, and you do comedy shows, whatever else. We all know it's out there.
Yeah.
We don't talk about it. Should it happen? Absolutely fucking not. Is it happening? Are higher ups always going to use their power? Absolutely. Star quarterback going to treat the bench guy like shit? It happens. We all know it happens, but now we're all like, surprise.
Right.
And let's face it, if your TV persona is somebody that big, that higher up, are we human? We make mistakes? Sure. Do we need to cross that line and rape people? Man, put some Vaseline in your hand. Go buy yourself a lick and stick bob.
This is where, this is where that almost gets into kind of a slightly different territory, I would think, because there's one hand, okay, what's the difference between listen, what? One of the reasons
power.
Yeah, exactly. But one of the reasons why men in general, by the way, everybody that try to achieve success is because they want the biggest gene pool to be able to breed with. All right. Now that's on not talking about Bob or Tom or whoever's listening right now or whoever's watching this video. I'm talking the human being, the meat wagon that your brain is freaking tied to right now, wants you to be successful as possible, so it has the most opportunity to spread its genes to as many people. That's just the selfish gene theory, I guess, what's going on there. All right, but so there's one thing of I want to be one of the reasons why I love being an entertainer is because I want as many people to love me as possible. All right, that's the reason why I love being on stage. That's why I love making people laugh. All right. Does that mean where is the line of being cool now? Because it happens after shows, not necessarily with any ones that I've done, but I've heard about it, where the girl wants to fuck the funniest guy there tonight. It happens. Or
I'll take your word for it.
Musicians, man, how many girls want to bang the lead singer after the show or to be a part of that?
Yeah.
It happens, all right, because you're the star. You're, wow, that was really amazing. I want to be a part of that. So is there a difference between that versus luring somebody backstage and hey, you want to just come hang out, talk to the band, you get to be that, and then forcing yourself upon them? Okay, well, that's another discussion that needs to be made. All right.
It's another one where that came from, if not. But,
right.
I mean, but it doesn't matter as a manager dealing with guests, upset guests, they get upset with you, whatever else. Do I want to smack the hell out of them?
Right.
Hell yes. Have I ever? Okay.
Right.
I got to think about that. But no, because...
That was in a nightclub in a Buffalo Wild Wings, and that dude was asking for it.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's sports bars and whatever else. Sometimes you have to play the bouncer. Yeah. But, I mean, at a restaurant, if you have an upset guest, whatever else, I mean, and we've all been there. I guess have pushed our buttons to the point where we start seeing red.
Mm-hmm.
You know, do you want to smack them?
Mm-hmm.
Hell yes. And anybody that says no is a liar.
Mm-hmm.
Do you smack them? Hell no. You know better.
Unless
Period.
they put their hands on somebody.
Well, you grab, you swing, you defend, whatever else. But, you know, hey, this steak is rubbery as shit, you motherfucker. Do I want to smack somebody when they talk to me like that? Absolutely. Do I? No. So what's the difference? You know better, period. We've all been taught better.
So why? I mean, the question is like, why does it keep? I mean, there's like, I think there's.
It's the dirty secret. I can get away with it.
Right, and then maybe what was
I mean,
the
it's
other?
like being a kid, going to get a candy bar or something, you know, or a snack, or you're sneaking around doing something.
Mm-hmm.
It's that excitement, whatever else, whatever it is. It's too late. You're a grown-ass adult. You know better. You can't run around stabbing people, shooting people, although they do.
Mm-hmm.
But unless you have something mentally fucking wrong with you, and you need to be in a psych ward, you're an adult. Grow the fuck up. Figure it out.
Figure out other ways to get laid other than trying to victimize people. You know?
I mean, there's Congress guys that are paying for it. You can pay for it too.
Hey, that might be a step in the right direction. At least
Age-old, what was it?
The older profession, yeah.
Oldest profession in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't died. It hasn't gone anywhere. Figure
Right.
out how to get there. You know, not that I'm saying it's bad or good or whatever else, but I'm just, this is crazy, man.
It's weird. It's kind of like you know what? That's the thing that I think the big elephant in the room is talking about sex. I mean, like, oh, people talk about sex all the time. I'm like, in the workplace and all the other stuff, it's just everybody. I think a lot of people don't want to talk about it because they don't want to be the creep, all right, or they don't want to be the slut. Or they don't want to be, it's like apparently like human beings, they hate to admit that orgasms feel good. I'm like, well, do they not to
I
you?
think
They
a
just
lot of
like,
times it's probably
you know?
just not wanting to show your personal side.
Right, that vulnerable side, that underbelly,
or
I guess.
intimacies.
Mm-hmm. But that's kind of like maybe that's because that's the hardest thing to talk about. Maybe that's where we have to head to next. So I don't know. It would be really great as we're kind of rounding third here. It would be cool to have somebody that has anybody's done a study as far as like restaurants and sex in the workplace and how they're working to deal with to really ending the harassment. Something other than the Dr. Phil technique, which is stop. Are you horny and you want to bang a bunch of your servers? Well, you should stop. Like that's. I mean, somebody who's actually doing some work and like, all right, what are one of those things that we could help mitigate or what's a minute? I don't know if that's the right word. Lessens the instance of sexual harassment, like any company actually. What if you guys like? Listen, we had a problem where all of our associates just kept banging the shit out of each other, and we had to put some rules in place. And we found out that they just started lying about banging each other all the time.
Yeah.
So then we had to change the environment so that way they don't want to bang each other as much. Like
Dark room.
Could be. I don't know. You could try out like hiring only ugly people, but eventually then that turns into a kink. Like guys aren't going to give a shit at that point. But yeah, if you guys have any thoughts on that, man, by all means, hit us up at you could hit us up here on the YouTube channel. At Disjointed Films is my Twitter. We actually probably ought to create a Twitter for this, just so that way we can.
It's probably a good idea.
Yeah. All right. Before somebody else does it, and then. Yeah, because all this other stuff is pretty much in my name. Why don't you, I know you're not on Twitter. You could.
I don't like to tweet.
Oh, all right.
I'm not a twat.
You're not a twat? All right. I'm not a twat. But yeah, man, if you have other topics you'd like us to talk about or just to shoot the breeze about or want to be part of the conversation as well, if you're in the industry, you've been doing this for a while, man, hit us up, man. We've had other people. Eric Schellenberger's probably going to be back sometime early in January. We figured out actually how to do the audio, so I'm going to be super psyched about that. Because the last time he was on, basically all you could hear was Thor and I, and just Eric going, and we're like, yeah, dude, absolutely. So that was weird.
It was kind of funny. He was miming the whole situation.
Yeah, exactly.
It was kind of funny.
But other than that, man, is there anything else that we should touch on? I've got a couple dates coming up in January. for comedy out in Fort Collins and Loveland, respectively. So I'll give you guys more updates on that. Other
I
than that,
think that's about it. Everybody have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's. Stay safe. Don't get too hammered. If you end up behind bars, it's a bad night.
right. And I guess clocking out for the Disjointed Food Biz, I'm Dave Germain.
Thor Markey.
You guys have yourself a great holiday. Adios.
Oh, buddy.